Okay, so today we get to start in with chapter 14. And we're going to be talking about personality theories. So get out your notes, and we're going to take a few things down. We're going to keep this real simple, this introduction today, short and sweet. And I'm going to get you started on your first assignment, essentially. So label your notes, chapter 14, personality theory. And for introductory purposes, I just want to start with a little joke. I love my psychology jokes. They're hilarious. Now, I don't know how well you can see this. Let's check it out if I need to get any closer. Let me bring you in tighter here. I'll let you just check it out and enjoy it on your own. Got a little cartoon titled The 4 Personality Types. I'm assuming you're all laughing hysterically now as you've gotten through all 4 of them there. And I'm also guessing that you all know people that fit into one of these categories or the other. So let's just go through and see what we got here. So you got that first woman up top there. She's looking at the glass, and of course she says, "Ooh, the glass is half full." How many of you are that kind of personality, where you're always looking at things as if the glass is half full? Of course, you also know people, and maybe it's you, that has a personality like this second guy, and he's just looking there all dejected. He's saying the glass is half empty. How many of you know those people? How many are that person? Then you got this guy down here. He's a little confused. He's like, "It's half full." No, wait, half empty. No, what was the question? I know a lot of people in this world with that personality trait. I'm talking to some of them right now, probably, right? Huh? What? What was the question? And then finally, my favorite, you got this angry guy at the bottom. He's saying, "Hey, I ordered a cheeseburger." Doesn't matter what's in the glass, right? Never going to make this guy happy. So this is just one person's comical look at the 4 basic personality types. We're going to go into it a lot deeper than just that. However, as we learn about the different theories that have been developed to understand and make sense of personality, we're going to see that this cartoon is actually probably it makes more sense than we would even think. So let's talk a little bit about personality just real generically. And we're going to start with just a definition. So we're going to define personality as characteristics consistently and uniquely displayed over time and across situation. There are a lot of important pieces of this definition that help us understand what personality is. First of all, personality is oftentimes defined by certain characteristics that we have. We'll talk more about what that even means, what characteristics are. Here we're going to talk a little bit about traits versus behaviors. So we define personality by the characteristics that somebody displays. But it's more than just that. Personality is consistent. Personality is not something that changes or fluctuates from day to day, even from week to week, and really not even from year to year. Now, over long stretches of our development and experiences that we have in life, personality can change sometimes, but even with those changes, the root of it and the core of the characteristics usually are consistent and don't change once we grow into adulthood. So it is consistent. In fact, if personality characteristics are inconsistent, then that typically means that there is some sort of issue or some sort of problem, might be medical, might be mental health issues. It should be consistent. It is also unique. Every one of us is different, and personality is one of the things that proves that. Now, are there things that we have learned about personalities, like the different types of personality that we share some things in common with different people? Absolutely. However, no 2 personalities are exactly the same. It's one of the things that makes you unique. And this idea of being unique and consistent, as I said, is not something that is fluid. It is typically unique and consistent over a long period of time, and also across most situations, meaning that most people's personality, as it may come out in school, it should be very similar, and they should express similar characteristics when they're at a sporting event. And those characteristics should also be similarly displayed when they're at home with their family during Thanksgiving, and so on and so forth. So it not only is consistent over time periods, but it also should be consistent from situation to situation. So the second thing I have there is something that'll just be a consistent, talking about consistency, a consistent topic that'll come up over and over again as we go through this chapter, and that is the difference between a trait and a behavior. We'll actually spend some time, a whole day or so, talking simply about a theory of personality that revolves around traits. It's called trait theory. We'll get to that later. Traits, you know that term, you're familiar with it, you should have some understanding of what we mean by traits. These are probably the things that would fall under this idea in the definition of characteristics. We all have certain personality traits, and there are characteristics about us. Behaviors are different than traits. Behaviors are the physical things that we do, the actions that our body actually does. So for example, you might have a personality trait of shyness. Well, what are some behaviors that exhibit that personality trait? Behavior might be being quiet, not talking. That's almost like a lack of a behavior. In class, in a classroom setting, the behavior that might exhibit the trait of shyness would be short responses to questions by the teacher. Whereas somebody who has the personality trait of being outgoing or an extrovert, they might exhibit behaviors of talking all the time. And when a question is asked by the teacher in a classroom setting, their behavior is that they give long, loud answers. So those are just one example of the difference between how we have these certain traits, but then we have behaviors that sort of come out and exhibit them. We'll talk a lot more about those two concepts as we go through the chapter. All right, so the only other thing I want to do today in terms of introducing the chapter before I get to your assignment is to talk a little bit about what we ended last chapter talking about the profession, and so I want to talk a little bit about what what personality theorists actually do. So these are psychologists that spend their life studying and trying to make sense of personality, what it is, how it develops, why they're different, so on and so forth. And so they're trying to always make sense of these different traits. They want to identify them, describe them, make sense of them. And with that, we oftentimes can find patterns in personality traits. Personality is also a way that we can understand and explain the differences between one person from the next. Again, back to the definition, that's one of the things about us that is unique. It's our personality. Well, we want to make sense of that and understand why some people are different in certain situations and make sense of those differences. Personality theorists also want to make sense of our behaviors, how and why we act the way we do in different situations and conduct our life and go through our lives on a daily basis. We all do that in different ways, and so personality theorists want to try to understand that, explain it, and make sense of it. And finally, sorry about that. Personality theorists are trying to do the same thing that all psychologists are trying to do. They're just trying to do it in terms of understanding personality and our behaviors and our traits, but that is to figure out ways that people's lives can be improved upon. If we have an understanding of some of these other things about different traits and patterns of behaviors, if we can understand why and how people are different, if we can understand the ways that people conduct their lives and react and behave in certain situations, well, maybe we can figure out ways to help people improve the quality of their life, especially when we start talking about people that are experiencing problems, difficulties, things like that. So that's what personality theorists are trying to do. Now, we are going to go into all of the different theories that have been developed to try to understand this concept of personality. But before we do that, I'm going to set you to work on your first assignment. Okay? What I want to do here is just first give you some verbal instructions for how to get started on this assignment. And it's not that big of a deal, but I haven't specifically created the way that I want this all to be turned in and the way I want it to be created. But I will give you some instructions in terms of an assignment created on Schoology. I'm just working on that right now because I came up with some of these ideas just in the last day and a half or so. So the assignment is that you're going to be creating a collage. You've done this before. Do a little arts and crafts time. Just change it up a little bit, right? And these are the criteria. And again, this will be kind of spelled out in an assignment created on Schoology at some point in the next day or two. One, the collage is supposed to represent your personality. Now, I want you to do this at the beginning of the chapter before we even start studying personality and having a better understanding of it. I want you to do this based on what you think personality means and what you think your personality is. So you're going to create a collage that represents your personality. Two, somewhere on the collage, you need to have your name. It can be your first name, your last name, both names, a nickname, whatever, but just something that identifies who you are. Secondly, is the thing that you should understand about how collages are made. The rest of the page has to be completely covered with images, pictures, words. You can have words on there, but pictures and images express it better in a collage, but you can also use words. The next criteria, again, is something you should be familiar with when doing collages. It should be completely covered. There should not be any white or blank space in the collage. I want you to cover the whole thing to the point where collages oftentimes have the images and the words kind of hanging off the edges. So cover the whole thing. And the last thing I'm going to say for the criteria is that you can use any medium you want. Traditionally, and with my in-person kids, I'm going to give them this option again. You would just use a piece of art paper, and I have magazines and things. Kids are going to be cutting out and pasting words and pictures from magazines all over their collage. You can do that at home. If you prefer, or if you would like to do some digital collage, you can use any medium that you're familiar with, any digital app, any digital resource that you can create and generate a collage. That's fine. You can do that as long as you're satisfying the other criteria. Completely covered, have your name on it, and use words and images to represent your personality. I want you to start working on that today, and I want you to work on it tomorrow. And that's going to be the bulk of tomorrow. I'll post some other things on Schoology, a reminder of this, but essentially, I would like you to get the collage completed today and tomorrow. This isn't something that you need a whole lot of time to work on. You just brainstorm, you start putting things together to represent your personality, and you paste them together on the collage. There will be more to come either today in Schoology or even tomorrow when I create the specifics of the assignment and how to submit it, what we're going to do with it as we go through the chapter. But the idea right now, all you need to worry about is trying to get it complete by the end of your day tomorrow. If you have questions about that, you can shoot me an email or send me a message, whatever, and I can answer those questions. Hopefully these verbal instructions were enough. All right. I'm going to set you to it. You can start working on the collage that describes your personality.